Peace, love, and blessings, everyone. Welcome back to another installment of the STEM Files, the voice of STEM talent in Black culture. Today, we have an awesome episode. We have the science of birthwork. We will be talking with Kimberly Muhammad, founder of Bedside Birthwork and Doula, as well as Philadelphia Midwife, also known as the People's Midwife, Sister Asasiya Muhammad. Tune in for more of this dynamic episode. After this, family, let's get it. Again, welcome back, family, everyone who enjoys the content of the STEM Files. Again, we are your Blackest STEM podcast with your STEM gents, Jabrilian Engineer and Tariq Cardiac. This is your platform where we do our best to highlight the best and brightest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I am your humble co-host, Kimberly Muhammad, aka Jabrilian Engineer. I am a mechanical engineer focusing on naval ship fluid systems with a background in material science and engineering. Also, the co-owner and director of engineering at our parent company, Original Man Scientific LLC. I am always joined by my illustrious co-host, Tariq Cardiac. What's going on, bro?
Yes, sir. Thank you for that introduction, beloved. My name is Tariq Muhammad, aka Tariq Cardiac. I'm a biomedical research scientist with a concentration and a background in cardiovascular pathobiology, which is the study of how diseases form in the heart and blood vessels. I'm also a co-owner of Original Man Scientific, serving as the chief operating officer, handling the day-to-day operations of the company. I'm excited for tonight's show. It's a double feature. We're about to get into some things that I thought, even though I'm in the life sciences, I thought these two things were the same. So please forgive me on that, family. But I'm excited for tonight's show because we have two people on who I respect, who I admire. One of them happens to be the mother of our more illustrious co-host, Jabril Muhammad, Sister Kimberly, and also Sister, what's the pronunciation of your name? I should have cleared this before the show. Asasiya. Beautiful. So we also have Sister Asasiya on, who is a midwife. So we're going to let them introduce themselves, tell us about what they do, and we'll go from there. So let's start with Sister Asasiya.
Sure. So my name is Asasiya Muhammad. I am a certified professional midwife and a licensed midwife. So what is a certified professional midwife? Not to be confused with a certified nurse midwife. I am a direct entry midwife, meaning that I didn't go to nursing school first. I just studied midwifery, and my focus is on out-of-hospital births, specifically home births, but I've also worked at a birth center, and I'm licensed in Jersey. I established my practice, Inner Circle Midwifery, here in Philadelphia in 2013, and I've been doing births, ever since then. Along the way, like as part of my training, I was in El Paso on the border for a little while as a student, and then I went back also as a staff midwife where I was training midwives. So I think that's pretty much it.
Beautiful. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for that. And now we have Sister Kimberly, who's my second mother. How you doing, sis?
Praise be to Allah. I'm well. My name is Kimberly Muhammad. I am a certified full spectrum doula here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. What is a full spectrum doula? I deal with anything that you can think about for the perinatal period, helping families to conceive with fertility, the prenatal period, the postpartum period. I work with families that experience loss. I'm a prenatal yoga instructor as well as a childbirth educator. I think that I would say that I came into this kind of like I stumbled into it. I kind of was given a scholarship to be a breastfeeding counselor years ago when I had my first baby. And I knew that I would enjoy it, but I didn't know how much I would enjoy it, especially because I had a background in education. So I just utilized that to kind of expand my practice, and here we are today.
Hey, it's beautiful. Beautiful. Jabril, you want to start it off?
Oh, of course. Let's get into it. So I'm just gonna throw something out here for all y'all watching. Listen, appropriate, right? See, the man behind the bump had to come very theme oriented. For those who do not know, my wife is pregnant, so the man, behind the bump, and see that. Praise be to Allah. And when Sister Kimberly mentioned the firstborn, that is I. I just want to make sure we cleared that up. All right, praise be to Allah. So one of the things that is important to me, here at the STEM Files, right, we like to get to the root of things. One thing that's core and fundamental in all aspects of science is the scientist is one who tries to get to the root and understand that which is or is in existence. So when we want to break down, birthwork, we want to break down midwifery, the art of being a doula. Let's just start there. So what is considered birthwork, and then what is midwifery, and then what is it to be a doula? So we're going to start there for today.
But before we answer that question, I want to play a quick video just to kind of set the tone for this particular part of the show. So this is a reel I pulled from Sister Asasiya's Instagram, and I thought it was interesting because this reel is kind of explaining, it's kind of showing her, like, I want to say, small frustration about people thinking that midwifery and being midwife and a doula is the same thing. So I wanted to kind of play this video as we ask her what she doesn't want to be explaining over and over again. So check it out, family.
Get out of here. You're a midwife too? Yeah, my best friend's a doula. Too? Yeah, so I'm a midwife?
All right, so what are like Jabril was asking, what are the key differences between a doula and a midwife, and why is it so easy to get the two mixed up? And this is a question for both of you.
Do you want me to go first, Sister Kimberly?
Yes.
Okay. So what is the difference? In short, a midwife is a clinical provider. So we handle all of the clinical medical aspects of a normal pregnancy, childbirth, postpartum care. Whereas a doula is also a professional, but in the sense of providing emotional and informational support. And they do not handle any of the clinical aspects of birth. So they wouldn't necessarily give medical advice. They don't perform medical procedures. They don't deliver or catch the baby. But they are a significant part of the birth in that they provide the moral support and the emotional support unconditionally that midwives don't provide. So we're kind of interested in like the safety of the process, and they're interested in like the emotional side of it and the informational side of it, how it pertains to the person who's giving birth. I don't know if that's a great explanation, but
that was beautiful. Beautiful explanation. Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am. Sister Kimberly, what's your thought process on the two?
I actually was gonna, that was excellent. Asasiya and I have kind of joked before about what, like, I'm going to do what she's not going to do, and vice versa. And so I would let people know, like, sometimes I get inquiries and they want to do what is called a free birth. They'd like to do that at home without the assistance, like unassisted births. And that may be what someone may like to do. I don't involve myself in that. I had someone call me recently, maybe within the last year or so. And they were like, they just figured I'd be there to catch the baby. And I was like, oh no, I absolutely am not going to catch the baby.
Yes, ma'am.
And, the times, with Asasiya and I working together, it's a wonderful flow. When you get a good doula midwife match, it's a good kind of like flow in between, like preparation for the family, because it's a family event, especially when it's a home birth. It's a family event. And So yeah, but we definitely do not do clinical things.
You also asked, why do you think it's so easy for the two to be confused?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I would say that that's probably like the legacy of birth work is just, wise women helping other women. And so to distinguish them in this context is a little weird, because midwives and doulas have been kind of one and the same, but as birth work has evolved, you can kind of separate it so that, midwives don't become taxed with the size of things that doulas can do.
And typically when you have a birth, your doula will be there way before the midwife. Typically that's how it works, especially for a home birth. I know with Inner Circle, Asasiya is typically in touch with the doula on like when she should come and kind of like how things are progressing. And so you can see where the skill set is distinctively different, but needed in both aspects.
So beautiful. So we're getting into skill sets. We're talking about evolution of these disciplines. One of the things that I run into, as an engineer, you talk to other, STEM professionals. When you talk STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, you tend to think about the traditional hard disciplines, your biologies, your chemistries, your mathematics, right? Aspects of technology and, different engineering disciplines. When we think about birth work, specifically midwifery and, being a doula, where do those disciplines lie when it comes to hardcore science, and what aspects of science have you found to interact with through your sojourn, through your respective disciplines?
So, I guess I'll take that first. So as far as the hard disciplines, I would say that midwives, we have to be experts in what is normal. So we don't deal with pathologies. We don't diagnose pathologies. We don't treat them. But we have to know what is normal. And so a very skilled midwife knows when something is outside the range of normal. So we have to know all the normal values for, your blood pressure, your vitals, what a normal heart tone is, what normal complications or conditions of pregnancy are. And we have to really master that in order to perform our duties well and use our skill set. And I would say that midwifery is more of a healing art, because it does rely heavily on all of these normal values across the board, labs, physiology and all that. But there's also a great deal of intuition that it requires. And I think that there's the overlap with doula work and midwifery work, is that as we're receiving information clinically, we're also receiving it intuitively about what someone is experiencing. And we use that in our practice as well. Which makes it different than like the hard sciences where it's like this or that,
Right.
Absolutely. Mom?
I actually was going to say that I see where it relates directly to chemistry. When I'm talking with my clients, I am sharing with them what different types of hormones are being produced in their body at a certain stage in their pregnancy. And so why you may be feeling like extra loose, extra achy, like in maybe the second trimester, your body producing extra relaxin that is necessary, but this may also bring about some discomfort or some changes and things like that. So just connecting it very, very in a very, very small way to chemistry and the chemical makeup of the body, I can see where it correlates that way.
Good. Go ahead, bro.
No, I would just, as you were talking, one of the things I try to harp on the show all the time is I really want our audience members and even other professionals to understand that a lot of STEM in its essence is the way you attack something, the process behind the system undergirding that which it is you're studying or operating in. So as I'm hearing you talking, you kind of go through your process and the things that you may see and interact with and things like those values. And I love how, Sister Asasiya, you mentioned the nuance that the intuition brings in. To whereas though now you have the hard, sometimes cold sciences, but you have the warmth that is brought through the nuance of a woman's intuition. And I think that's when you get into people talking about STEM versus STEAM and these types of things. But I always think that even with art, you have basic universal principles that undergird that. And as you all talking, I was really able to see the science behind the process. So that was a beautiful response. Thank you for both of you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I just want to say, you know, before I go into my next question, I respect the careers that you all have chosen to go into, because it gives the mother and the baby, her husband, or whoever significant other supporting her, it gives them an option to have a holistic birth and not have to solely rely on hospitals or wherever she may be at the time. It gives her an environment, a controlled environment, to have a healthy baby and still have the care that she needs in the process, in the process and afterwards. So I wanted to talk about the benefits, whether they're medical benefits, spiritual, mental. What are some of the benefits of having a midwife and a doula there with the mother to bring this new life into existence? We're gonna let Mama Kim do that one first.
Yes.
You want me to go first?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
All right. One of the main benefits is feeling safe and secure when they have created a relationship with their provider, meaning the midwife, and with their doula. And so I say this really having in the forefront of my mind that a lot of obstetric practices are filled with many obstetricians. And so if you go to a practice, I've had clients who go to practices where they see one of maybe 15 OBs throughout their pregnancy. And so one of those potential OBs, or maybe if there's a resident, or maybe if there's a hospitalist on staff at that hospital, one of those people is going to be there to help them to give birth to their baby. Now, that being said, there is no way, shape, or form that you're going to be able to form a relationship and have them really understand where you're coming from, what you like, what you don't like, your concerns, your preferences, and so forth and so on. And so in those particular practices, it's very, very important to have a doula, because it's probably as close as you can get to that close-knit midwifery care. If you're gonna have a larger practice that you go to, and things of that nature. So that was the first thing that came to mind when I thought about that, because everybody doesn't. Some of the practices are OBGYNs and midwives together. And so there's so many different types of practices. And I've learned that, even thinking back to when I had my children, the benefit of the fact that I only saw 2 OBs, and they were both Black women, and I saw a midwife throughout the whole pregnancy. That's the exception. That's really not the rule nowadays, unless you go to someone like an Asasiya or a smaller practice.
That must have been a beautiful experience.
It really was. There are definitely things that I would do differently, because I know more now, but I don't take anything away from those sisters. They did an amazing job.
Praise be to Allah. And you can see the benefit, in Jabril, from that type of guidance coming into the world. You birthed an amazing young man, and you can definitely see that care and that time and the effort, through him. So that's beautiful.
Praise be to Allah.
He was bad sometimes.
I was.
I can believe that.
I was, but I learned at a certain point. I just wasn't. It was like, you know what? This isn't worth it anymore. I'm good now.
Gotcha.
Asasiya, did you have
Yep.
something you want to add to that?
Yeah, you asked about the medical benefits of it, and you mentioned even the spiritual benefits. So I would just add on in the same vein of trust, recognizing that, you know, pregnancy and childbirth are normal physiological events most
Yes.
of the time. And for it to unfold that way with limited intervention, you have to be in an environment that feels safe so that your body can function. It's like any other physical process that we go through, whether it's using the
Right.
bathroom or making love. If someone is watching you or you feel unsafe and
Exactly.
things are not going to work the way you're supposed to work.
Right.
So it's the same thing with childbirth. So the safer you feel, the more comfortable you feel, then your body will produce those hormones that Sister Kimberly mentioned. Like you'll get the oxytocin, and you'll get the endorphins, and you'll
Come
get,
on.
you'll suppress the adrenaline that makes people tense up and makes it harder for your body to open up naturally and efficiently. And so that is a medical benefit if you want to look at it as a medical experience, in that, you know, the safety and the comfort of it is essential to maintain the normalcy of it.
Can
Man,
I,
I
bro?
love
Can
when
I
people
say
talk
something?
that. Go
Can I
ahead, bro.
say something on that point? Because in that right there was so much science in what Sister just said.
Yes.
You know, we know that we learned in the Nation of Islam, right? That environment is stronger than nature, and literally that thought shapes matter. So when you talk about this, the physical, emotional, spiritual, psychological impact that your surroundings have on something as important and delicate and potentially life-threatening as birth, now we start to get into how you can literally birth a god or a devil or start to really chart your future by how you surround yourself in the mental state of the mother,
Precisely.
birthing individual. So it's so much in that, which is why that ability to be in as close of a natural environment as possible. You mentioned the other types of situations where that will come into play, where bodily processes may or may not react the same way because when you feel pressured, tense, uneased or diseased, right? Those types of things come into play very quickly. And one thing, I was actually watching something. My wife, Sister Khalifa sent me a video. It was a reel, and it was a woman who was having a home birth, and she was in the pool or tub or what have you. And what really struck me as so dope, which I'm sure you all are very familiar with, is when she had the baby, the level of difficulty or the level of, I guess, discomfort seemed very similar to like if I was to like lift weights and I just finish and then it was very minor, just optically. But you get inundated with what it's like to be in a hospital and under drugs and around all of these people that you don't know and all this steel and metal all around you. And that's just not necessarily how we're supposed to do things. And from my understanding, birth doesn't have to be extremely stressful. So I just wanted to add that very quickly.
And also, I just was thinking when you said that, I always tell my clients that we have a plan, you have a plan, and be prepared for maybe like a twist and a turn, a curve in the road. But I also tell them that if you adapt to one thing, it doesn't mean that you have to adapt to all the things. And so I think that's where the benefit, like maybe you may not have a home birth with a midwife. And so maybe you may need to have somebody to kind of discuss it with. Just knowing your options. That's really one of the things. And also when you were talking about that birth that you watched, I'm not really sure if you were able to see, and I'm not sure if this is what you witnessed, but you might have witnessed what we call fetal ejection reflex, where if you just relax, your baby just comes down and out. But we'll see.
But because it did seem like little sis kind of slid out. I'm not gonna lie. Like it did seem like they just kind of, just out. I was like, what? Like it was was so cool. Now again, like I'm a, as an engineer, I think stuff like that. Like it just that process, it was like boop, and I was like, oh snap, like sis really did that. Like I was like, that was cool. But it could have been. But all she did was have a little bit of soreness, like I had leg cramp. He put the baby right up on her, and I was like, this is so dope. Like, this is so cool. And she just seemed at ease, relative ease, and at peace. And it just like the baby wasn't really even crying. It just everybody seemed like there was a relative sense, or the atmosphere had a lightness or serenity to it, even with the minimum discomfort that was experienced. So, but you got me talking the whole time, bro. So go. I need you to tap in.
Brother, ain't no way in the world I can stop you from talking. So you just keep doing your thing, and just let me know when it's time for me. But I got a question, really, and it's more so on the medical side of things. And Sister Kimberly, you talked about it a little bit when we asked you about the medical benefits of having a doula or a midwife. And my wife, Sister Kiera, she plans on going into obstetrics and gynecology after medical school. And I wanted to know, like, what would be the ideal relationship between an OB and a midwife, or an OB and a midwife and a doula?
That's a
what would be
question.
the ideal relationship?
Go ahead.
Sister Asasiya?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great question, and I'm glad that that's on your mind. I mean, it takes a village. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to bring a woman into motherhood. So, the ideal relationship is that if your wife is if the person is healthy and low risk, to establish care with a midwife if that's accessible to her, right? And then to have an OB as a backup provider who can chime in when things go out, or if things go outside the range of normal. But clear lines of communication in the event of transfer, that it be a seamless transfer of care to and from, is ideal. And for the OB to respect the role of the midwife, the expertise of the midwife, and the presence of the doula. I think that's ideal, to work collaboratively so that care can feel very seamless and it's not combative. It's not like, oh, well, the OB said this, oh, well, the midwife said that, but it's like, it's a conversation and kind of negotiating what we know to be safe and what we understand to be normal.
And have you had good experiences with OBs that you've worked with? Any challenging one?
Yeah, because I don't play with OBs.
You don't seem like you take no mess.
I don't play with them. So, and I am respectful, but no, I've had good experiences, and I've had challenging experiences. So, but for the most part, I think it's positive when we have mutual respect, and that's on both parts, like the midwife and the doula, or I guess all parts, and the OB. They all have to respect each other, because an OB is an OB. Like, you have expertise in high risk pregnancies. You know how to treat things. You know how to perform surgery. I need to know when it's time to fall back, when it's time to do that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And I've always been a avid reminder to people about respecting people's roles and positions and things like that.
Yes, you have.
Because when you're dealing with like a task or an assignment or what have you, and it's a lot of hands involved, when somebody oversteps or tries to undercut or over or go behind or something like that, it can kind of mess things up, especially when this particular person needs a C-section. That I'm just going to throw something out there. They need a C-section, but the midwife may not be humble or humble enough to step aside. And then the same thing with the OB. If there's nothing else that's required and the midwife can handle things, it's good that the OB is humble enough to step aside and let the midwife, do that thing. So we got to respect. Yes, ma'am. Sorry. I was just throwing an example out there. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
No. I was actually going to give you a quick example. So Sister Kimberly is part of, she has her own practice as a doula, and she's also part of our collective, the Inner Circle Collective. And in the process of recruiting the doulas, like I kind of handpicked all the doulas, but in that process, we did a boot camp, and one of the exercises was that, I told everybody they were going to be on call for a certain period of time, and then just randomly called them and told them they have to come to my office right now. And so one of the doulas, or would-be doulas, didn't come. And so we still went through the role play, and the person is on the phone and they're like, yeah, I kind of have a headache, and my blood pressure, they said, is 140/90. And they're telling me that I need to get a C-section, and I'm not really sure. And the doula, who didn't show up, is on the phone telling her,
Oh God.
oh, don't let them rush you into a C-section. And that's a perfect example of, you're not there. You can't give medical advice because you're not even a midwife, you're not a physician, and you're not there, and you don't know what you're talking about. Because that would be the indicated, the best indication would be to have the baby. So
wow.
Yeah.
I wanted, since we're talking about C-sections, and this is something that I think, as my wife and I have been pursuing things, and I know what her plan is, or her developing plan is, what we desire, what we don't. When we talk about Western medicine and how births are conducted at these major hospitals, do you feel, and has it been your experience, that there seems to be a desire or a leaning towards, hey, this is happening, this much time has passed, you're here, baby's not out yet, let's put you in for a C-section? Do you feel like that's the case? And in response to that, what would be your advice to expecting mothers, birth people? I don't know the exact title I should use, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that there's certain titles you want to use to be politically correct. And so these individuals and their partners, in regard to how to respond to apparent pressure to get a C-section.
I'll go. Do I see a tendency? That's the first thing you said.
Yes.
Of leaning towards. Absolutely. And I'll tell you, just in the whole black and white of it, there's more money in surgical births. That's the first thing. So just it sounds crass, but that's it. It's the first thing. I know with my clients, I am a firm believer in making educated and informed decisions, informed consent, and informed refusal. So what that looks like for me is not you just going in there and saying, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want that, and really not knowing anything about why you don't want it. And so I talk to them about what their feelings are, like why you might not want this, why it's important for people in my role to remain unbiased, non-judgmental, and things of that nature. But I definitely see it. I kind of listen for it. But like Sister Asasiya said, when you have consistent elevated blood pressure and things of that nature, I also will tell you that is an indicator. I know you may not have wanted to go this way, but that is an early indicator, and maybe the remedy for it is to have the baby. And so in that case, they may not want you to go through a whole labor. In that case, it may be safer for you and for the baby. So I think that even though I do find a tendency and have seen a tendency for providers to be leaning towards C-sections, especially in our community, I also need to be able to hear and have enough communication with clients that say, okay, well, what has been your most recent blood pressures? What else has been going on? And things of that nature. And just know that that's why they're asking you, or they're suggesting X, Y, and Z.
Yes. Praise be to Allah. Beautiful. Sister Asasiya?
Could you repeat the original question, please?
Yes, ma'am. So generally, do you see a tendency, inclination, or proclivity toward, gearing expecting mothers toward C-sections? And if so, what would be your advice to those in regard to how to respond to, hey, I don't want to get a C-section, how to kind of fight back against that inclination if it presents itself?
Yeah. So Sister Kimberly, I'm sure, sees a lot more hospital births than I do. So I don't always see an inclination towards C-sections, but I do see a drive for inductions, which lead to C-sections.
Right.
I see that a lot. I see, non-medical inductions recommended for different reasons. Like, we think this baby is going to be too big, or the pregnancy is like, why not? Let's just do it. And I've seen an uptick in that since COVID. So what I would say is, my recommendation is to avoid the things that lead to C-sections. Those try to do, even when I do attend hospital births, is to set the tone early. Like, if right now we have a clear sight that there's no reason why we shouldn't have a vaginal delivery. Like, even with high blood pressure, they can give you something to control your blood pressure while you're in labor. If this is an induction, because it's a necessary induction, there's a way to even kind of negotiate how the induction happens so that you can mitigate the chances of you being led into a C-section. So I think setting the tone, having a solid birth plan, and understanding hospital procedures, whether on your own or with the support of a doula, to know what you can and cannot advocate for to avoid this cascade of interventions that could lead you to a C-section.
Wow.
An unnecessary C-section.
Self-advocacy. If there's one thing, if I could pick one thing that has been a part of my daily development as a young man, growing up, being homeschooled or whatever, is learning not only how to communicate, but to advocate for oneself, particularly as a Black man. But at this time, we are a little over the halfway point in our show. But all those watching, we want to make sure that you are pounding that like button, you are subscribing, sharing out to your friends, family, colleagues, your dog, your fish. Everybody needs to be tagged into the STEM Files. We are Tariq Cardiac and Jabrillion_engineer on Instagram. Follow us at the STEM Files on Instagram and Twitter. The STEM Files on Facebook and YouTube. We want to hear from you. We want to have y'all in the comment section. If you are enjoying this content, put some black fists in the comments so we can see, that you all are enjoying, and make sure to share this out. Oh man, I'm learning so much, and I'm very appreciative of having these two dynamic individuals on with us. Tariq, do you want to get into some of our tap-ins, or you want to hold off on that a little bit?
Yeah, let's do that. Before we do it, I got a special message from the Final Call newspaper I want to play.
Yes, sir.
So, family, at this time, let's go ahead and check that out.
Now you can get the same uncompromising truth you've come to expect from the Final Call newspaper on all your connected devices. Subscribe to the Final Call Digital Edition today. Go to subscribe.finalcalldigital.com.
Absolutely. Yes. Got to get your daily dose. Absolutely. And for those who are interested and you want to get your physical edition, you can tap in with your brother Jabrillion Engineer in Philadelphia to get your physical edition, become one of my customers. Or if you're in the Richmond area, tap in with Tariq Cardiac. But remember, subscribe.finalcalldigital.com to get your digital edition. Every week it comes out. You get light, life, truth, and power from an uncompromising Black news source that gives you real news that you can use every single week. Some of us call it the gospel because it's that good news. Praise be to Allah.
Right. First word. Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
All right, cool. So now at this time, I want to get into the social media tap-in. So, family, for those who are watching, the social media tap-in is a chance to get to know more about what our guests do in their day-to-day careers. And we pick out a picture from their Instagram or their Facebook, and we ask them, what's going on in this picture, what's going on in this video. Is that all right with y'all?
That was so synchronized. That was crazy. that nod was so synchronized. That was amazing.
Right.
Talk about being coordinated and being on the same page.
Awesome. And this is also an opportunity for you both to talk about your businesses as well. So if you have a business, the People's Midwife, Sister Kimberly, you and your business, this is the opportunity for you to talk more about that, how you got started in your business, and what's going on with it now. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Excellent. All right, so let's start with Sister Asasiya. So I believe you are weighing a baby here. What's going on in this?
Yeah, this is a really a cool story. So I am weighing a baby, and this baby ended up being 9 pounds 11 ounces.
Wow.
I said 9 pounds 10 ounces just because I didn't like 9/11, but it was actually 9/11.
Mm.
And the funny part about this picture is that I'm also wearing the parents' pants because this baby was so big, and the mom was giving
Wow.
birth in the pool, and she was exhausted and she wouldn't move, but the baby's shoulders were stuck, so I had to go into the pool to deliver the baby.
Wow.
Wow.
And then and yeah, well, we got him out, but yeah, he was a big boy.
Mm.
That's what I'm doing with the baby.
Yeah, big baby.
9 pounds 11 ounces. I said, whoo.
Right. Okay,
My man
so
could
now,
just get some chin ups up out of that thing. Just
right. So what is your business entail, the People's Midwife? So I don't think that's the actual name of the business. That's just the social media handle, right?
Right, that's correct. My business is Inner Circle Midwifery and Doula Network. So I have a private home birth practice based in Germantown. I serve Greater Philadelphia, sometimes South Jersey, but the suburbs, Montgomery County, Delaware County, Philadelphia, sometimes Chester. And then adjacent to my practice is the Doula Network, that is an extension of the work that I do. So the doulas work with me for home births, but they also work with clients who are not eligible or choose not to do home births. And they consult with me to help those people to get other second opinions and, kind of reach our arms further into the community by way of doula support. So those are my primary businesses. And then outside of that, what do I do? I don't know. that's the bread and butter. That's my purpose. So.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. And for those who are watching, the links will be in the description. If you're watching on Facebook, it's definitely in the caption, YouTube in the description. So anything that's mentioned on the show, you'll definitely be able to just tap into that at the end. And Sister Kimberly, we're gonna go to your picture now. It seems here, that's wrong one. It seems here that you are helping a mother, I believe, just trying to comfort her, get her comfortable, exercises, or what's going on here?
Yeah, actually, she was in labor. So I was supporting someone at a hospital where she was in the midst of preparing for her VBAC. VBAC is vaginal birth after cesarean. So this is her second birth.
Nice.
Her first birth was a surgical birth, a cesarean birth. And so there are different, I guess, touch points that you got to kind of meet with your provider where they'll say whether or not you're a good candidate. Asasiya does those kinds of things as well. And so she was an excellent candidate for a VBAC. At this hospital, it was a little touchy because sometimes they want to, Jabril mentioned Western medicine, and that's really how Western medicine is set up. They want to just be involved. They want to manage the labor. They want to have their hands involved. They can't kind of let it flow. So at this particular time, she was doing side lunges in an asymmetrical kind of way because the baby was in the mid pelvis. And so in order to kind of move the baby down a little bit more, we needed to do asymmetric movements. So what we did on the right, we did on the left. And I believe her husband caught this picture. And as you can see, this was during COVID, because of the mask.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Awesome. So, and what does Side Birthwork entail? Is that the name of your company, or is that just the handle?
Yeah, both.
Okay.
Bedside Birthwork is my baby. I work with families from fertility prenatally, during labor and birth, in the postpartum period. We put together packages that suit them. So all packages will include some form of childbirth education, helping them to plan their birth, plan their postpartum period, helping them to navigate the system. Also kind of find resources and things of that nature. I offer prenatal yoga and breath work, Reiki healing, calm birth meditation, and things of that nature. So what I kind of do is kind of layer things on. My role is a little bit different when it's home births, because Asasiya's care is so comprehensive that usually the doulas don't have to do as much. But I'm also a student herbalist. So that means that I am making tinctures and things that, I run by Asasiya, like, this is good, working with them with herbs and things that are not contraindicated during pregnancy or with anything else they're taking. So, yeah. That's
I need to talk to you more often. Okay,
Absolutely.
excellent. All right, so I wanted to ask y'all this, and this is great because I'm learning so much about what you guys do. When I first started studying medicine, I thought the branch of medicine called gynecology was a little bit sadistic as practiced, under Western medicine, and I just always thought it was weird and an excuse for men to be involved in women's health, so to speak. I just always thought it was strange to me. But seeing, midwifery and the practice of being a doula, what do you all think is what is the history? I just want to know the history behind midwifery. What is the history, and how has Western medicine kind of interfered with what the natural birthing process is?
That's a beautiful.
What's the overall history behind
that? I think from time immemorial, I mean, like I said before, women, that's how people get here, is by giving birth. And women have always been the people to support other women who are giving birth. Like, it's just always been the case from what we remember. And I remember even hearing Minister Farrakhan speak on that. Like, we don't have to go so far back. We can look at the enslavement period. We can look at, the era of the Deep South, where we had the grand midwives, or the indigenous people and Native American communities, or the women in Africa, the people who came here, who were doing that, even delivering white women's babies.
Come on.
At home. So this tradition, if we were to even just start with the grand midwives, has always existed. Like the wise women who were on the porch, like Sister Kimberly's talking about herbs, like, oh yeah, go get this bush, get this oat straw, you take this because you're pregnant and this is going to help you. And it's just a different context now. So you have people like Sister Kimberly, who we are living that tradition now in a different way. So how did it come to this point? So from the time that we had those grand midwives in the South, and then you had the turn of the century where, obstetricians came in, or they developed this field of obstetrics and gynecology, or expanded it and moved birth from home into a hospital setting, where now it's like the chic vogue thing to do is to now give birth in a hospital with an OB, because it became a form of profit for the OBGYNs to have this other field of medicine. And in doing that, they also demonize the midwives, and they're dirty, they're this or they're that, you don't want to do that, that's kind of like ancient, so let's go into the hospitals now, and now we can control this experience. Like,
and that's I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. That's really how all branch of medicine is now. You have the quote unquote natural side of things, and then you have those who are practicing medicine under the American Medical Association, and then they have their own standards, and if it's not in line with them, it's spooky, or you're a quack, or this, that, and the third, and that's how they treat midwives.
Correct.
You can continue. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, and it gives them more control over the experience. And like, if you would just even say this is a patriarchal system, and white men like to have their hands in every part of society that they can, even places they don't need to be. But without getting which kind of that started kind of like this white woman hippie movement that took from the grand midwives, and then they started to ostracize Black women. So there's just been like this progression where Black women have been pushed further and further out as experts in childbirth and as the natural supporters of other women, from nurse midwifery to OBGYN. And now I think we're just kind of reclaiming that the best that we can.
Yes, ma'am.
And we can't forget which king was that you probably remember, Asasiya. I can't remember. The story of the king that wanted to see his children being born, and that was the whole stirrups kind of thing, like lay her back because I want to see.
Oh, I don't think I know that story.
I can't remember. I can't remember exactly who, but I'm telling you, it blew my mind, because when you talk about like just utilizing upright positioning and gravity and things like that to give birth versus what Western medicine introduced, and that whole lying on your back and working against it and all that, you see how the interventions, they kept developing more and more and more interventions because they had you laying on your back, and then they wanted to be involved, as Asasiya said. So it's like, oh, this gives us a perfect opportunity to be involved because you're not, quote unquote, progressing the way that, we think you need to.
Yeah, and I think in doing that, women have been conditioned to not trust birth.
Right.
Learn to fear birth. Like, we don't trust our bodies to give birth naturally. Like, and I know, Sister Kimberly, you know this as well. Like, the first thing they're talking about is the pain, or, oh my God, when am I going to get my epidural? Or I'm so scared, and all that. Like, we don't have very affirming stories about how birth is natural and it's normal and it's doable and it's possible. And there are millions of women giving birth right at this moment with you. And it's,
right,
beautiful thing.
Mindset is everything. Going into it, the way that you go into it, your mindset and the trust you have with yourself, your support person, your partner, your spouse, whoever that is, your team, that is key to achieving the goals that you want in birth. And also, I always say one thing, emergencies happen. And I tell my clients all the time, you'll know when it's an emergency. It's a distinct difference when there's an emergency. A suggestion of an intervention is not an emergency. And so we kind of talk about how to handle those type of things as well.
Excellent. Yes, ma'am. And you mentioned contraindications, and I'm big on natural medicine, nutraceuticals, different, just the overall development of treatment plans for certain types of situations. But when you mention contraindications, you said something very key, because most of the time, a lot of people who are in natural medicine or involved in it in any kind of way don't understand the importance of the body being in a certain state before natural medicine is given in any kind of way. You can't just, give somebody something and that's it. You have to understand what the body's currently going through, and then you can go ahead and do whatever kind of intervention you have in mind. So talk about, those contraindications. Talk about how important that is. And for those who are in natural medicine to understand that, the body does respond to natural medicine, but it has to respond to it properly. And you can't just, be frivolous with it and be like, oh, this is black seed, or this do the trick and that's it. I'm sorry, I got a little ingress from that.
I would just, not to get like too deep into it, but I would say that we talked about this from a holistic perspective. And I know, like, when Asasiya does intake with any clients, she will say it's very, very detailed, right? So when even though I'm not a clinical provider, I still talk to them about, like, what's your diet like? Because if you come to the situation like, I want a natural birth, I want this. I'm not taking that, and I don't want them to do this. And you saying no to everything, but you eat from the place that got the big M. Like, I'm just wondering, like, that might be a contraindication because your body is not set up to receive this the way that we're looking for it to receive. So while you may have like maybe low iron or things like that, there may be something that your body might be set up in such a way that you can utilize an herb, you can utilize a nettle tea, you can cook more in cast iron, you can eat more cream of wheat, you can eat more of this or that, and kind of like tip the scale a little bit. Whereas you might not be set up to the point, and you might need to take the iron supplements. And so I think it is important to be have a full disclosure. And I don't know, I don't get the full, I guess, kind of like experience of it when I deal with my clients and they're dealing with their OBs, because I kind of have to like pull out information and ask and stuff like that. And I don't really know the OBs at all. But when Asasiya and I, like the team, when she's working with a client and one of our doulas, then we get to all be kind of like a team together, and we're kind of maneuvering through this for the best outcome. So that's key.
Yes, ma'am. Sister Saucy, did you want to add to that?
No, actually. I don't feel the need to add to that.
Okay. Got it. Jabril, what about you?
I just wanted to say, as I've been listening, I've been doing my best not to have several questions come up in my mind, but that's what's happening. And we are definitely going to be in need of part 2 to go into more aspects of birthwork. For those watching, those listening, if you take anything away from today, what you should take and understand is that birthwork is not a one-size-fits-all discipline. There's great nuance and adaptability that is necessary to cater very specifically to every different case. One of the things that I thought about as we were talking about nutrition is how we're taught in the Nation of Islam that the woman is the first teacher, the first doctor, the first nurse, and we're given How to Live books 1 and 2 from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, coming from Master Fard Muhammad, God in person. And one thing I thought about when you were talking about what's the word again? Contraindications is, you know, I used to do network marketing, and I took a very good supplement that was a powder. And one of the things I learned is that when it comes to supplementation, obviously you're going to take things according to your needs, but it's a game of absorption. So when you go from a pill to a capsule to a liquid to a powder, the level of absorption for that particular product goes up. But my ability to absorb this as someone deemed universally healthy versus someone who has poor digestion will be different. And you can't, you know, go into things like How to Live and like, well, this isn't working for me. Well, at a certain point, you have to do some level of legwork to get your body to a certain point to benefit the most from that which you're applying said body to. So if I am, let me make sure I don't lose my train of thought. At a certain point, yeah, you may lose weight, but How to Live in its essence becomes maintenance. So you tend to look very similar or be a certain size for a long period of time because your body's able to maintain a certain requisite base. And that's what I think gets missed sometimes when we talk about, you know, am I healthy? What should I be taking? You got to do what's good for you. And that's what I got, you know, kind of listening to you all talk. So we definitely got to do a part 2. And I think for me, the last thing would be, you know, it's Black History Month, right? We Black all day, every day, 365 here in STEM Files, right? Right. But I want to talk about representation and the importance of 2 things. Black people getting involved and trained in birth work and having access to the capabilities and advantages of birth work? How important is that and why?
I think it's very important. Representation matters. I would say, going back to the conversation about trust, in that birth is a very sacred experience. And so you want to be in the care of someone to some extent that you feel has some of your shared lived experiences, because even when you know all the values and you know all of the things, like I said, like the knowledge-based things, there's something to be said of being taken care of by someone who has lived very similar to you and who understands your nuances and your culture and your communication that might not be explicit, like, even the relationship between a mother and her child. Like, for example, when you are giving birth, like, what's the relationship between your wife and her mother? I know that because I've lived that as a woman and I have a mom. So, it's very different from a cultural standpoint. So I think that that's the biggest part, is understanding the nuances and the cultural sensitivities from your provider, being able to share that with them.
Absolutely. Mom, would you like to add to that?
No, I agree. I agree. I feel the same way.
Praise be to Allah. So we have reached that time, family.
Right,
we are
already.
Literally, that hour went by supremely fast. For those of you who are big time fans of ours and are tapped in with us every week, you know how quickly the show goes by. But we are Tariq Cardiac and Jabrian Engineer, your humble co-host, your resident STEM gents here at the STEM Files. Follow us at the STEM Files on Instagram and Twitter. We have been live on Facebook and YouTube at the STEM Files. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube and share out our content to everyone who can benefit. If you have someone you feel like will be a great addition to the platform, you yourself or a colleague, family member, what have you, make sure to DM us on Instagram, in particular at the STEM Files on Instagram, and we would be more than happy to, discuss with you and have you schedule your episode to come on to our platform. This is the Black is STEM platform. We do our best to highlight the best and brightest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So if you're looking forward to part 2, you want a part 2, put some black fists in the comments. I know there's so much more we could go into and deliver in terms of high quality content that is really necessary to our people and more. So with that, Sister Asasiya, Mom Dukes, is there anything you'd like to leave our audience with? Any last words, advice, anything as we begin to close?
I want to thank you all for having this platform and for inviting me out. I really appreciate it, and I'm really impressed with all that you've done and all that you're doing. So thank you. And I know we mentioned at the People's Midwife as my IG handle, but the larger practice is at Inner Circle Philly. So yeah, I want to encourage everybody to follow that page as well.
Yes, ma'am. Praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
You put me on Front Street.
Yeah, we just stop asking you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for seeing value in this platform. And if I would leave anything with everyone, it would be invest in birth. So no matter who the person, the family member, I've had a lot of people say, why would you pay for that? You just have to X, Y, and Z. And that might be true. But invest in it. And I always tell people, if you think it's something you need, then it's something you need.
Come on.
So if somebody has that little kitty, that little midwifery fund, help them get a home birth, doula fund, drop $10, $20 in it. Every little bit helps. Encourage them. Don't lead with your horrific birth stories to the newly pregnant.
Come on.
Come on.
And thanks for this. I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Bedside Birthwork. And
Excellent.
I have an email address I have an email address on there and my website on there. Same thing, bedsidebirthwork.com.
Praise be to
Awesome,
Allah.
awesome. Once again, family, for those who are watching, all of that information is either, depending on how you're watching, it's either going to be in the caption on Facebook or in the description on YouTube. And family, next week's episode is a student from Morehouse School of Medicine. She has a biotechnology company that she's very, very proud of that's growing expeditiously. And she's going to be joining us next Thursday, this February 17th, to talk about her company, what she's doing at Morehouse School of Medicine, and so much more. So definitely tap in for that. Jabril, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the crowning event of Black History Month.
Come on.
Of any month or anything that you could ever get involved in. So can you talk about Savior's Day, beloved?
Absolutely. Savior's Day 2022. This is the annual commemoration and celebration of the birth of Master Fard Muhammad, Allah in person. The Honorable Minister Farrakhan, the national representative of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam, will be giving an address titled The Swan Song. This is the crowning event of not only Black History Month, but in my humble opinion, the whole year. All right. So if you cannot travel to Chicago, you want to go to your local mosque or study group, inshallah, they'll be showing it February 27th. That's 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's going to be 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come out. You know, if someone invites you out, come out and hear the life-giving teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad coming from the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. You see the definition says a person's final public performance or professional activity before retirement. Those of us who know, there is no retirement in Islam, but what could that mean? What if we think about it and apply our minds to the grindstone in that regard, what could that mean? What could be the broader meaning to that? So, Savior's Day 2022, the Swan Song, delivered from Mosque Mariam in Chicago, Illinois, Sunday, February 27th. Be there, come out to your local mosque or study group. Inshallah, it'll be a beautiful message. We'll get a lot from it.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much, bro.
Yes,
Definitely
sir.
look forward to that. And also, family, we want to take a moment to thank you all
Absolutely
for supporting the STEM Files for the last going on what, Jabril, 6 years now? 7?
Yes, on different platforms, of course.
Right, of course. You know, if we were in YouTube, we don't really pay attention to numbers like this, but this is important to us because we've really worked hard in making sure that we got this type of content to as many people as possible.
Absolutely.
You know, there is no particular content like ours, you know, to talk about the Black story in science and technology, specifically the Black and brown story by 2 Black men in STEM themselves. You know, that's not around, you know, so we pride ourselves in this show. We pride ourselves in giving you quality content, whether it's live, pre-recorded, or what have you. You know, this has been a very interesting journey for us. So we want to thank you all. And of course, we're over 1,000 now, but we reached the 1,000 mark, I want to say, 2 months ago, Jabril, maybe?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we just proud of that. We want to thank you all for supporting us and continue to share, continue to comment, like, and, you know, email, like Jabril said, share it with your fish, you know, everybody. So
everybody.
So just make sure that, you know, you keep supporting, and thank you so much for all you do for the STEM Files. Jabril?
Yes, sir. Family, again, it's been another installment of the STEM Files, the voice of STEM talent in Black culture, where we highlight the best and brightest in science, technology, engineering, mathematics. We're your humble co-host, Jabril engineer Tariq Cardiac, joined by the wonderful and dynamic Sister Asasiya and Kimberly Muhammad, midwife and doula, striving to do a righteous work in the greater Philadelphia area, and inshallah have that reverberate throughout the world. So until next time, family, this is the STEM Files. Love y'all. Have a beautiful, beautiful day, beautiful week, and stay tapped in with your brothers who represent Black is STEM. Peace, family.
Peace.